Hi, I'm Conrad Chua. Welcome to the Case Study, weekly series where I dissect a business issue. It's 5:30 in the morning here in Cambridge. The sun just came up about 5 minutes ago, and this is what it looks like outside. As you can see, I really need to mow that garden. It's getting really out of hand. Like I can't really say it's wilding anymore. But anyway, for today's episode, I'm going to talk about streaming and music. Let me first set the scene. It was a few nights ago, and I am standing in a packed Brixton Academy down in London. And I was there in a concert, not as a fan, but as a chaperone for my teenage daughter. I'd always assumed this pivotal parenting moment, milestone, would come with some brooding post-punk band like The Cure from my time. But no, my first chaperone gig was for Wave to Earth, a Korean indie band. And you know what? I hated them. They were bland as tap water and probably not as nutritious. There, I said it. I know the fans are going to come down on me. Thankfully, my daughter is still asleep. Now, back on my own playlist though, I have Bad Bunny's latest album. It's basically almost tattooed onto my Apple Music algorithm. It's definitely going to be one of my top 20 albums of the year. And that got me thinking, how did we get here? Where Korean, Puerto Rican artists, right, from pretty small countries, if you think about it, are running global music charts. While massive markets like Brazil, China, they just can't seem to export the sound in the same way. So we'll talk about K-pop, Reggaeton, Afrobeats, and what their rise tells us about streaming and globalization. So let's start with the numbers because vibes are cute, but really it's the receipts that are better. Now, in 2023, this man, Bad Bunny, he's a pure Puerto Rican artist. He raps almost entirely in Spanish, was Spotify's most streamed artist in the world. And this was not a fluke. He'd been number one for several years. Meanwhile, you obviously have people like BTS, Blackpink. They're just shattering records like it's a national sport. I mean, K-pop, it's so deeply embedded in streaming platforms that South Korea, a country I think it's population of California, it's exporting music like semiconductors. And of course you've got Afrobeats with people like Burna Boy, right, selling out arenas all over the world. I think he played to a few sold out shows in London Stadium, right? And they're just climbing the charts globally. Billboard had to create an Afrobeats chart just to keep up. Now, in the 2020s, K-pop, Reggaeton, Afrobeats, they just achieved unprecedented streaming numbers and international chart success. And I think these genres are really driving globalization of music consumption. They have local language songs and become globally popular. Now, they're contributing to this more international and diverse music industry, and I love it. I'm all for that, right? These guys, they didn't wait for the US music industry, for the Grammys to catch up. They just went global, and they've done it brilliantly. So let's talk about who's not riding this wave, right? First, you've got Samba, right? It's from Brazil, population 200 million people. Stunning music culture. But globally, Samba's biggest exports are still from the Bossa Nova era, right? Don't get me wrong, I love The Girl from Ipanema. It's a great bop, but it dropped in 1964. So Samba remains very popular within Brazil's domestic market. Brazil is now, I think, one of the top 10 countries in the world when it comes to the music market. But these streams are mostly from Brazilian listeners enjoying local genres, rather than from this broad international audience. So no Samba song has become like a staple of global streaming charts in Spotify or YouTube. Right? The other one that we can think about would be Mandopop, right? With people like Jay Chou. China has 1.4 billion people, right? It's got enormous streaming numbers, but it's all within the Great Firewall. So you've got people like Jay Chou selling millions of records in China, maybe in Chinese-speaking territories, but outside of China, that's almost invisible. Now, and you can always tell me that Mandopop, they've got some massive streaming and sales. And if you look at Chinese platforms like Tencent's QQ Music, all this, yes, those are huge. But again, it's all in China. And because of the Great Firewall, there's very little incentive for Mandopop acts to figure out things like TikTok or YouTube. Now, you can also tell from the composition of listenership, right? Even the biggest Mandopop stars, they rely on Chinese-speaking audiences for the vast bulk of their streams. Whereas top K-pop groups, they get this large share of streams from outside Asia. BTS and newcomers like Stray Kids, only half of their streams are from Asia. They get the rest from the US, Canada, Europe, right? In contrast, a Mandopop star like Jay Chou or Zhou Shen might have almost 90% of their streams from Greater China and the diaspora communities. I mean, look, you can't. Someone's big in China when they're up there endorsing instant noodles, right? That's Zhou Shen, a very famous Chinese star. But it's all for that market, right? Similarly, Samba streaming heavily skewed to Brazil and Portuguese speakers. It just lacks that multi-continent fan base. So what's really powering this rise of K-pop, reggaeton, and Afrobeats? It's not just the algorithm, it's this whole ecosystem. So South Korean, if you look at it, they've got these entertainment companies that operate like well-oiled machines. They invest millions into growing, developing idols, producing high-quality music videos, marketing releases internationally. And from the early 2010s, you've got K-pop, these companies leveraging YouTube, social media to target global audiences. I mean, I gotta admit, when Gangnam Style first came out, I thought this was a novelty record. It was just a one-off, right? But it broke YouTube, yeah. And it's instructive that the whole industry in Korea saw that as an inspiration, and they really cracked how do you get streaming going. Reggaeton, same thing. They've got this Latin Grammy influence. They obviously rode the success of initial people like Jennifer Lopez, Ricky Martin, who had to sing in English to break through to America. But now reggaeton, they sing mostly in Spanish. Yeah. And these genres, they're just remarkably savvy in embracing digital platforms and streaming trends. For reggaeton, if you remember, Despacito was a huge hit in 2017. It broke the record for most streamed song, and its success was largely driven by YouTube, Spotify streams across Latin America, US, Europe, and beyond. Right? Now, that's one, which is the distribution, right? YouTube, streamings, and Spotify. The other aspect, though, is how they've been very adaptable culturally without losing their essence. They incorporate elements that broaden their appeal, and language is a big one. So K-pop songs, they're primarily in English, but they always include they're primarily in Korean, but they always include some English phrases or hooks, right? And increasingly now, a lot of the songs are entirely in English, but with a very Korean flavor. Yeah. Now, this bilingual approach makes songs catchy to non-Korean speakers and easy to sing along. I talked about Despacito, and that was a big hit, at least in the Latin circles and dance clubs. But it really went global when they got Justin Bieber to come and sing, and that broadened the appeal globally. It's really instructive as well, though, that they got Justin Bieber to sing that first 30 seconds to hook an international audience, because uh, you need to listen to a song for 30 seconds for it to count as a play in Spotify. So again, this combination of getting a big English superstar, right, English speaking superstar, but also playing to the algorithm. By contrast, Mandopop, Samba, they've done less of this language mixing for global reach. Mandarin pop stays in Mandarin for the most part. It preserves that cultural integrity, but limits this non-Chinese comprehension. We see a few Chinese artists releasing English versions, but they don't really collaborate the same way as, let's say, in Afrobeats, where you've got Burna Boy having someone like Ed Sheeran appear on his music. So that goes to the next part, which is these collaborations, these cross-genre fusions, right, that you see in K-pop, Reggaeton, and Afrobeats. K-pop groups, they regularly get Western producers or guest artists. I think BTS has worked with Coldplay, of all people. Blackpink has played with Selena Gomez. So it creates songs that fuse styles and appeal to multiple fan bases. And that's one of the great strengths of the genres that have become global. And because they've done this, these genres have become incredible, much longer staying power than anyone thought, right, on the global stage. They've transcended from being flash in the pan, this Gangnam style kind of video. It's kind of funny to go along, but they now have almost like a conveyor belt of talent coming through. And you see this in K-pop, where yes, you had Psy in early 2010s, then there was BTS, then there was Blackpink, then there was Twice, and now there's Stray Kids, who sold out two shows at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So they actually have that ecosystem, they have that conveyor belt of talent, and I think they're going to be at the top of the charts for a long, long time. And if you think about it, this is not just about K-pop or Latin hits at the club, right? They built these global movements. They're shaping the future of culture, really one playlist at a time. So if you've got thoughts, I know music is something that's very personal, very powerful to people, right? Drop them in the comments, and I'll respond to them after the show. And with that, I just want to wish you a happy weekend. It's a Saturday here in Cambridge. It's a long weekend with the May Day weekend, and a very good rest of the weekend for you. Thank you very much.